Well, I just hit record, so
It's happening.
It's totally happening. Yes.
Hey, everybody.
There
Welcome to the Trying to Be Better with Joel and Steve podcast. Yeah.
Dude, this is our 20th podcast.
Holy shit.
So, Jeremy, congratulations. You're here on like a big night. There's confetti for those of you that can't see it.
Yep.
Confetti cannons are all happening.
There's confetti cannons.
There was a fog machine earlier. It was wonderful.
The fog machine is going. The Rockettes are kicking behind me. The whole thing.
Amazing. I just want you to know we spent our whole budget on this festivities for you, Jeremy.
I appreciate that.
We have a very
money at the door.
What?
No.
All right.
We have a very special guest tonight who Steve and I have known for a long time through a lot of different places, and we'll get into that.
For real.
Jeremy's a really, really far out dude. Jeremy Eberle is here with us tonight, and Jeremy's a cool dude. He's also a really he's a therapist with a very fascinating speciality, which we're interested to talk to him about a little bit.
And he also just this evening became the president-elect of the Nebraska Counseling Association. So big congrats to Mr. Jeremy. It's always very cool to see, hometown boy make good.
Yeah, right? Dude.
Very cool.
What? So I guess let's start.
Say hi, Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy.
Hi, guys.
Hey, how you doing?
Tell us, what is the Nebraska Counseling Association? Am I saying that right? I think I fucked it up.
Nebraska Counseling Association.
Yeah. What is that?
So it's basically an organization that we put on conferences about twice a year. When there's legislative bills that impact counseling, we let members know so they can write their state senators, places like that. Like this year, they tried to get something passed with COVID being what it is. That if, let's say you had a client that was a student,
mm-hmm.
moved back home because of the pandemic, because they can do everything telehealth. Well, I can't see them anymore.
Right.
If they move back to a different state.
Correct.
So one of the things Nebraska Counseling Association was in support of was trying to get it so if you're seeing somebody and they have to move due to the pandemic or due to life circumstances, if you're doing work with them, rather than rupture that relationship that you have and try to blindly find somebody in the area they're living in, that you continue to see them. Now, I don't believe it passed, but that's one of the things that the NCA does is we let other therapists know what's going on in the community, what's going on in the state, so they can talk to their representatives.
So it's kind of an association, a group of people that obviously keep each other and other counselors apprised of new things and all of that, but also do some advocacy.
Yeah,
right?
Very, very much so. Very much so. We weren't able to do it this year. Traditionally, they've had a day on the Hill where we go talk to senators and people like that about issues that are going on in the state, insurance reimbursement rates or difficulty with insurance and things like that, so that the different committees within the government can become aware of issues that therapists are having, which will impact client care.
Oh, gotcha.
So, Jeremy, when I first met you, would you say that this was something that you would have thought would be on your horizon where you're at right now, tonight?
I was going to say scared little boy.
Yeah, me too.
What I had going on. Obviously, I've been in recovery for a while. The only way I could think, because I was thinking of how to describe this when I met Steve specifically. I met Joel later, but I met Steve, was my personality was just shattered. I didn't have much left.
Well, you had one, you just didn't like it very much.
That's probably more accurate. Yeah. It was more of a dark and gloomy person, which can be funny, but it wasn't much fun to live in.
Well, that was my impression of you. When we first met was I'm going to pull a line from Swingers. You're like, dude, this guy is so money and he just doesn't know it. You're so money. You got these big fangs, man.
But like up until that point, just about every decision I had made had gone poorly.
Sure. No, I understand that.
And so I was like, I just should not make decisions. That's what I do. And don't talk to anybody because they might encourage you to do something, and that's terrifying. Because that leads to more decisions. And handled those well.
And maybe responsibility too.
Yeah, exactly. Those are not so far. We don't have much direct experience with that going well. So let's just avoid that.
I would say that like the last decade has gone really well for you.
I would have completely agreed, but it took a while. In recovery, I would say my first 4 years were, I'm trying to come up with a better word than hermit, but I can't.
That's
more accurately describe it. It was avoid any entanglement possible besides, like, I would talk to Steve, and I would talk to a couple other people, and that was pretty much all I could handle. Because it was too scary. And people would invite me places, and I'm like, oh, that's gonna be a lot. No.
There's gonna be people there and interactions and
making conversation.
There's gonna be small talk and
because that's the interesting thing is it's like I want them to talk to me, but like no, I don't want to talk.
Well, they might ask you a question like, how you doing?
Yeah, exactly. That's entirely too terrifying.
There's
so much up there that you don't really want to know how I'm doing.
Right.
So was
general,
go ahead, sorry. Was it always counseling for you then even at that time? Was that something that you were headed towards, or was there like a therapist or a counselor in that pivotal time that just sort of like blew your mind and you're like,
you worked at houses for a long time, didn't you?
Yeah. So like I got out of college, and college was such an unmitigated disaster. I mean, I graduated, but not with honors. Let's just say that. Either socially or
C's get degrees, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so truthfully, my strategy was just get in the workforce, just go to work. Like that's what we can handle. We can handle a time schedule. And I wanted to be a therapist, but undergrad was such a struggle that because they would require things like go to class.
Yeah,
sure. It's tough.
It was
horrible,
seriously tough. Like I remember one professor said, "What do I need to do?" I said, "What do I need to do to pass this class?" He said, "It would help if you'd shown up before April."
I've had to say that as a professor now. I've had to say that, like, man, I can't tell you how important is it if you it's hard to fail somebody who has perfect attendance, right? It's just like it's hard. It's like so hard to fail you if you show up every day. Like I'll go over to bat with you. So yeah.
No, and that was the thing, was just that was the one part that was impossible for me, because I would show up on test days.
Right.
I would do fine, but I can't show up consistently. And that's sort of a problem in my world. So I went to the workforce first. I worked at the regional center for 9 months and then transferred over to houses.
For those of you that don't live in Lincoln, Nebraska, houses, we're referring to as Houses of Hope. It's a halfway house community here in Lincoln. Great organization.
Yes, wonderful organization.
Definitely.
Yeah, it really is.
And I worked there for about 3 years, and it was around that time that actually what happened, people just kept telling me I should do this. And I was like, yeah, I mean, like, I want to do it, but again, the school thing, like, because I'm the type of student that, like, I like to learn, but I like to learn on my terms. So I saw something on Facebook one time that said, a mom asked her kid, "What'd you learn in school today?" And he says, "About dragons." She said, "Your class learned about dragons?" He said, "No, I did. I don't know what they were doing." That kind of describes my academic pursuits. Is like, I don't do well when I'm told this is what I should read.
Right.
And so I ended up enrolling, and working there while going to grad school. And counseling just seemed to be the only thing I was designed to do. It's the only thing that interests me is deep, meaningful conversations. Great.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, that's good.
But like that's the only thing that like is interesting to me.
Well, I want to I don't want to interrupt, but I want to just point out, like, one thing you said was that, people around you, other counselors at Houses of Hope and people around you said, this is something you should, because they saw it in you maybe before you saw it in you. But then to know that once you started practicing it, and probably in your work as a tech at Houses of Hope, those conversations became frequent where you're helping these folks in sort of crisis situations almost, or like trying to get their life back together. And you had a knack for it. Did you feel like you had a knack for it before you were told? Or I'm just curious about like.
No, my general strategy is I have to be told about 100 times before I leave it. Just being honest. So it would be something I would be interested in, but it was like somebody would say it and I'm like, oh, you're adorable. And so after a while, it just kind of kept feeling like that's where I was being led. And so, because that was, I would tell people when I tell my story in recovery, like being a therapist was the job that I would lie about wanting. I was like, that's the job. When people are like, what are you going to school for? Counseling. I was going to survive, but
yeah,
it was the only thing that sounded like a reasonable career for me.
Wow. And you sort of just like, it was kind of like you faked it until you made it, almost like you were just sort of like, it was that brass ring out there, and it's never going to happen, but I'm going to say this to get you off my back so that I have a thing.
So that I have an answer when I'm in a social occasion and somebody asks me what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to school to be a counselor. Right. Are you happy now?
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much how it felt for me. And then I enrolled at Doane and kept working at houses until that degree was done.
And so I mentioned in your introduction, and I think we're going to get into that because I think Steve and I are both kind of, we have a maybe a topic of conversation, but you specialize in a particular kind of therapy or counseling, right?
I do a lot of work with gamblers, and now they're what I kind of call their cousin, which is video game addiction.
Oh wow!
Because
I'd kind of forgotten about that, but that's a thing.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing we're seeing right now. So Alternative Avenues, which is an agency I own with my business partner Janet.
Why gambling?
Because alcoholism's boring.
When you know everything about alcoholism, like,
well, alcoholics are just predictable, really.
It honestly was so that I could separate it from my own recovery.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to be at a bunch of meetings where I'm running into people.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And so when I got an internship at a place, I was like, I know enough about this process, this thought process, but it's not the same thing. So I'm not going to always have to cut myself off from my own recovery program.
And
I didn't know that, Jeremy. That's interesting because I know that was a struggle for you for a while.
Yeah.
You tried to find balance and that wasn't working. So you just went to a different arena.
Yeah. I just had to play a different game. And so that's sort of the thing that just kind of kept, I was like, this is nice. I'm going to stay here because it's the same thought process, but different action. And so, which is actually to me the interesting thing when you cut across most of the addictions. Yeah, there may be different motivations behind why we're doing it. We're all doing it to fulfill a need, some way, shape, or form. And I'm like, that I can identify with. I feel comfortable here. And so that just started to become a natural outgrowth of what I was doing.
So you said the word process earlier. That's something I've heard in a different recovery group that I go to, process addiction. Would gambling sex addiction or pornography addiction and like you mentioned video games or you know internet, would those all be considered process addictions? And
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because the part that's interesting is that like it's harder as the general public to understand. Like we'll just use gambling as the example. We can understand logically because everybody's had a few too many. Like, oh, you just like that feeling, so that's what you're going after all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But what we don't categorize is what's happening inside the brain. And you know, the spot you get to when drinking or using, where it's like everything is okay. You just reach that perfect level of like everything's okay. That's what happens with process addictions too, is like, as an example, one of the things you have to learn when you work with gamblers is what is the amount of money they can safely trust themselves with.
That's interesting.
Because like I had one guy that was $5. He's like, if it's over $5, I'm going to do something with it.
Wow.
I had another guy that it was $5,000. He could have $4,999 in his wallet. He's fine. But if it's $5,000, now I got to go. It has to be worth it.
Well, that's kind of like drinking. Like, why would you have one?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Why would you even waste? Why?
Yeah. I've never been tempted by somebody who says, would you like a beer? No.
Boo.
Not amusing to me. That's just going to make me angry.
Yeah. Yeah. This is going to suck.
This is
gonna suck.
Exactly.
One beer sucks.
Don't dangle the dream and take it away.
Dangle the dream. Hashtag dangle the dream.
Yeah. Right? And so,
oh my God.
But that's weird because I bet everybody's threshold is different based on how much resources they have access to. Right. So like,
very much so. And how long they've been doing it. Because if like the part that starts to develop tolerance within gambling addiction is not only money, but time. The amount of time you spend doing it. And so when you're working with them, like if they have a 3-hour window, that's a problem. But if they have 2 hours, they're fine. And so you really have to start to work to define like, what's your safe zone to start? And when you can do that, then you can learn like where you need to plug holes for them, where you need to help them see, okay, we're going to need something. That's a 4-hour window. We need something there. But that tolerance gets more. What used to be a $5 bet would cut it. Now it's got to be $1,000. Used to be
sure.
half
to meet that rush or that whatever.
To meet that rush, to get that feeling, because our brain gets used to it. And that's is that the chemicals in our brain simulate what would happen with substance use. There's two different types of gamblers. There's an action gambler and there's an escape gambler. An action gambler typically like games that they feel they have a competitive edge. Play poker, they'll play blackjack. They'll, but if they play Keno, they have a strategy on how they'll beat it. Because for them, the rush is about winning. It's about being smarter than X, Y, or Z.
Sure.
And so for them, that's what they're after. For them, what happens in their brain is the amount of dopamine that gets released is similar to that of if you took a line of cocaine.
Okay.
So this is how you'll hear people going on like a 72-hour gambling binge. They're in action that whole time. And what's interesting is action can start before you've gambled. You can start action as you're planning it.
Oh yeah, I understand that.
And the high is already started. And that's the part that you have to watch for.
Well, you're getting showered, you're getting dressed, you're ready to go take the town.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I get that.
Yeah.
You're gonna do this tonight.
Exactly. We're gonna make some bad decisions.
That's right.
Excited about the opportunity.
So, but
what was the other one?
The other one is escape gamblers. Escape gamblers, interestingly, it's not that they don't want to win, but what they don't want is attention brought to them. So the games where there is less visibility, slot machines are for this population. And the casinos have noticed this. This sounds like I'm bashing the casinos. I'm not. They just know their market. So when you win, there's no longer like big bells and whistles that go off. Big bells and whistles is drawing attention to me. I can't have that. I'm here to numb out. I'm here to escape.
Oh, wow.
stopped that, and now they just have somebody come over and say, would you like to help cash you out? And so,
wow.
But for them, it's similar to pain relief. They're escaping from emotional or physical pain.
So instead of the cocaine, it's the opiate.
Exactly.
Oh, up or down.
Right?
Exactly. And the thing that's interesting in it is that the biggest population that plays escape games are the elderly.
Yeah.
And so when you watch people that are elderly walking around there, they're feeling good. So I was walking behind a guy one time. They hold a lot of gambling conferences in casinos, which
Are
is
you kidding me?
But awesome. I was walking behind this guy, and I was late because that's who I am as a person. And as I was walking behind him, he was at a walker, and I was thinking, like, man, gonna be even later.
Right.
Dude, like 3 hours later, I don't know where the walker was, but he was zipping around that casino. He was good. And so that was the thing that was really interesting to me, was how much that had changed the way he physically felt.
That's interesting.
So he like forgot his ailment and just was like, yeah, he was high.
Yeah, he was just high. He was just feeling good. Why wouldn't you want that if you're in your advanced years?
So with gambling process addictions in particular, I'm very curious about this, because as an alcoholic drug addict, I get that. This is, I mean, you've been around me. We've played poker together. I'm horrible. I don't love it. It's goofy and I'm done. And it's like, I don't get that rush.
Right.
It doesn't hit me. So with your clients, is it, you said something about like, you know, how much they can have or how much they can play with. Is it about complete abstinence with this? Because wouldn't it be really easy to, like, you know, play the stocks or play some, you know, like, is it about complete abstinence from that process at all?
I think generally your quickest, easiest way to solve that problem is complete abstinence. There is some research out there that harm reduction can work. I don't know. I don't know what the long-term success of that is.
Right.
That way. The challenging part with gambling is how embedded into the culture it is. Second most popular Christmas present, like 2 years ago, was lottery tickets.
Oh yeah, scratchers. Get them in the stocking.
Scratchers
Every stocking. I love them.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess I do love that.
Yeah, I know. But like, so it's March Madness is going on right now.
Right.
How many schools have it? You know, it's in so much of our culture that we don't even think about. I had a guy that got triggered by, you remember Amigos used to have those pull tabs?
Oh yeah.
And he got triggered by that and he's like, I can't have that. That's too close for me. And I would not have thought of that one.
Right.
You know, because they said you could win an iPad. I never won. So didn't occur to me to be gambling, but for him it did. So that's the part that when you're talking about complete abstinence, you have to be prepared for how prevalent it is in the culture, which is not different than drinking or other
Sure.
But you really have to start to prepare for those kind of things. And there will be times that will be more challenging for gamblers. This is a rough time.
Like March Madness or the Super Bowl or whatever.
Time. Yeah. Start of football is a rough time.
Can I tell an anecdote?
Yes.
So, well, I have two. The first, when I was 20 years old, I was in Northern California, Lake Tahoe, and I worked at Harvey's Wagon Wheel, big casino, you know, not Vegas big, but big, you know. And I was 20 and I had long hair and I wouldn't cut it. So I couldn't work front of house. So I was working in the back of the house. Right. I was a kitchen grunt, basically, big place. And one morning I was having breakfast in the employee cafeteria, which was really great, actually. And one of a security guard that I was kind of made small talk with when we were eating, you know, he looked kind of he was usually pretty happy go lucky and looked kind of morose. So I'm like, what's going on, man? He's like, well, had kind of a rough night. And, there was a woman, an elderly lady that had come up to one of the pit bosses about 3 a.m. and said, I'm done gambling now. I'd like my money back, please.
Oh my God.
And she was informed that that's not how it worked. And she flipped out because she had spent all of her and her sleeping husband's money. And they had to take her up and inform the husband, and they didn't have money to pay their hotel bill kind of situation. Right. So that was kind of and that was kind of my introduction to, like that's a reality.
Very real.
And then in that same position, I noted, and at the time I didn't think much of it, but as years have gone by, the way payday worked there was you stood in line in one of the bowels of the casino, which was not glamorous, I can tell you this much, to get your paper paycheck. And with your paper paycheck was a paper attached via paperclip 2 drink tokes. And you could get your paycheck cashed at the bars that had video slot machines in the bars. You know how that rolls. And if you know anything about alcoholism or addiction, you go get your paycheck cashed at the bar with your 2 free drinks. And 5 hours later, not that I ever did this, but you just gave your entire paycheck back to the very place that you just worked for. So in my mind, that's evil.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. But 25 years after that, I'm like, that's just evil.
That's the company store.
The company store, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at the time I thought, gosh, that's kind of nice. I can have a couple drinks, I worked hard for this, and I did, sort of. And the job wasn't, but you know what I'm saying? So like, that was like my takeaway from working in a casino, was like, oh man, that hurts. And so then the other thing is that a couple of years ago, I was working on this job. I was on the road all the time, and I was going down this little town in South Kansas, and the bank, I worked with banks, and bankers like, stay at the casino. We got a group rate. I'm like, fine, I'll stay. It'll be staying at the Super 8, I guess, Well, right. I rather would have stayed at the Super 8, or the truck stop thing or whatever, because what the deal was, this casino it's right in the corner of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri. Like the entrance to it is in Missouri, the parking lot's in Kansas, and the casino's in Oklahoma. That's how close it is. And from the outside, it's like this Taj Mahal in a rural, desolate, fiscally impoverished wasteland, right? And it's this kind of Taj Mahal like thing. And I'm pulling up and I'm thinking, this looks okay, fine. We'll have a buffet, it'll be good. And I walked in there, I walked through the casino, and I noticed it was like Tuesday or whatever, and the parking lot had some cars in it in the afternoon. I'm like, okay, fine. I walked through there. I was there 3 days, 2 nights, and I did not, with the exception of the staff, I did not see one person there that I could categorize as looking healthy. Every single patron in there looked bad, and it was sad. And the hotel itself was very nice, like with the accoutrement and appointments, but it was oppressive. And it was I can see how people that maybe hadn't seen much beyond that particular neck of the woods would think it was really nice, and that they were really treating themselves by being there. But all I saw was misery, frankly. Like when I'd go out to go to work in the morning, there'd be people sleeping in their cars.
Yeah.
And I would come in, after being at work all day, about 7 o'clock at night, I got some food or whatever, and the parking lot would be almost full of people that very obviously should not be gambling, right? For financial reasons. There wasn't a car in the parking lot that looked decent. A lot of busted out taillights and rolling on the spare donut, that kind of thing. And sometimes somebody just sitting in it, and it was just the most desolate, like my heart just sunk. And because because the hotel rooms did technically have internet access, but it was so bad because they didn't want you on Netflix. They wanted you on the floor.
Right.
Right. So I just went and sat down in the casino and just people watched, because I like to do that, except for it was so depressing. Because I've worked in casinos where it was kind of fun. Harvey's was a nice place. People coming up to Tahoe to party, This was not that.
Yeah.
This was desperation and addiction writ large. And it was
and look at that for a second.
Heart-wrenchingly sad.
Absolutely it is. But look at that. And that's the challenging part when you're talking about gambling, as opposed to like best case scenario. When you're talking about substance use, I'm going to get home before something illegal and or embarrassing happens.
Sure.
That's the big win.
Right. That's the big win.
Right. Yeah.
That's the big win.
We did it again.
Yeah, exactly.
We made it.
Suit up tomorrow.
Safe.
But with gambling, sometimes you can get out of your hole for a minute by the very same thing that got you in.
Right.
So
what do you mean by that?
Well, you hit a big jackpot and all the problems that you have go away for a little bit.
Oh,
they don't go away forever because of course you're going to get back into it, but go away for a little bit. And as an addict, that's all I'm looking for.
And as an addict, when you say that, Jeremy, that makes so much sense, because like as a drunk, it's like I wanted to get to that 10 minutes of cool, and I always overshoot the mark and pass out in my bed. And before, like by 10:30, I was the kid throwing up in the, so like there was no wave. There was no like catching another wave. You know what I mean? And so like this idea that you could be at your worst, hit the money, be at your best, and then go right back to being at your worst and maybe hit your best again in the matter of 24 hours. Holy moly.
That, to me, that was the most heartbreaking comment I've ever had from a client. Was they told me, I said, what's it going to take for you to want to quit? I said, I'm just curious. And he says, if I want to quit, if I really quit, then I have to admit that this is the number. This is what I have to pay back.
Oh.
But if I stay in it for a little bit, maybe that number gets better.
Oh God.
I'm connecting a dot here, because it's like there's some universality here, because we can look at that that desolate casino and sort of say that's not me, but like all of us on some level have to accept the path to freedom starts with the acceptance of what actually is. Like that right now it's like this. Right now it's like this. And that idea, like, if you're addicted to anything, it's like, well, maybe it'll be different. Maybe if I got out of this relationship or got that job or whatever, I could drink normally or went to that church or whatever. But, so there's a very big similarity there, but like the accepting of the number, because what it's like to hit big. I mean, right.
And that's the crappy part, is like, I've been here before.
Right.
And it's worked out. And if I stop, it's not that I don't want to stop, but if I stop, this is what I have to clean up.
Wow.
And I was like, hurts.
That's a universal thing in recovery, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like if I stop, I'm going to have to feel this, and I'm going to have to face all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? All of a sudden, maybe spinning the wheel on another couple drinks isn't such a bad idea.
Right.
Because I'll make it up to you one day, but that day it can't be.
It's not today.
Yeah.
You just
that's too painful today.
You honestly, and I got to admit this, that like, because I never really got into the ring with, gambling addiction. I just knocked on wood yet. I didn't judge it. It's just like, I don't really understand. It's foreign to me. That made a lot of sense to me.
I had when I was, working at Harvey's and lived in Lake Tahoe, I certainly blew some cash in casinos. Not a lot. I blew that on other things, but I was no stranger to the roulette wheel. It was a great way to spend an evening. Me and my buddy go down there and we drink these. I don't even remember what they're called, but we lose 20 or 30 bucks. And I just, small time stuff, maybe 100, maybe. And we never, ever won, but it was fun. And who cares, but I think part of the reason why I never got really hooked on gambling is because I never won. I was bad at it.
Yeah. Right.
Like it was just kind of like, I'll never forget. You guys don't remember our friend, Chris B. I guess he lives in Minnesota now. Chris, if you're listening, me and him and this girl, Katie, went down to Kansas City to go to Worlds of Fun. And we did. And it was great. We had the best time. And then that night we're sitting at Katie's sister's apartment in Kansas City where we were playing. And we're like, well, what are we going to do now? And Chris is like, there's a casino on the other side of the highway. Right. And I'm like, sure, let's go. And Katie's like, I guess, whatever. So we went, and Chris was playing. He wanted to play blackjack, and I'm just kind of walking around, and Katie's like, fine, I guess I'll do the gambling. And so she got $10 in quarters and she put it into a slot machine, and it was all gone within like 40 seconds.
Yeah, that's
and
me. That's how I gamble.
She said, this is the stupidest thing ever. And then we went and got a burger while Chris played blackjack. You know?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I gamble. I'm like, it doesn't matter what I bring in there. It's all gone and I'm just going to be done. Like, right. But you're right. Like if I'd hit big, I've been around people that won big.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That feeling could take me.
Well, I remember like I went with our friend Casey. Hi, Casey.
Yeah. Hi, Casey.
And I went with him and another guy, Daryl. And we went up to Sioux City so that those two guys could play in a poker tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I actually played, but I didn't have any designs on taking down the house. You know what I'm saying? It's like a $20 buy-in, whatever. And I was mostly going along just for the ride. And Casey, he came in second. Right. And it was amazing. This was when like the World Series of Poker and all that TV stuff was just kind of hitting big, you know?
Right.
And Casey went in there, and you guys know this guy, Casey. I love you so much. This was so cool to see. He went in there and he perfectly played the role of the idiot kid that thought he was really something. But he was doing stuff like kind of intentionally, accidentally playing at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And just being a total doof on purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew that he was doing that. I was just standing like, oh my God, these guys have no idea what they're up against.
They're getting fleeced.
These are all guys that have been playing there for 10 years or whatever. They all knew each other. Like, look at this idiot kid. And I'm like, you guys don't even know.
Yeah. You're getting
you don't even know. And that, so like that, like I understand like the appeal of that. Like that thing of like going in and being like, I got you suckers, you know?
Right. Being a big shot.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it would feel like. The interesting thing is if you play poorly in front of people that are actually there for an addiction, it ruins their high.
Why?
Because you're not doing it right. It's like one of my best friends growing up was this sweetheart of a lady, Abby. Steve's met Abby. And I remember her and I having very different experiences when we were drinking, because I chugged 3 beers right away. And sweetie, we have all night. And I was like, I know. And quite frankly, you're irritating me.
Right. Yeah.
Doing it right. Like you haven't done this. Like I'm being like so like just irritated because I was like, you're not doing this correctly. And then she's like, oh, I need to slow down. I'm starting to feel it. And I'm like, I do not. It's like we are speaking different languages. And so somebody's in there and they're playing, they don't know what they're doing. It can be very offsetting for somebody that's in the middle of an addiction, because if you look what they have going on in that space, some of them have, you're talking mortgages that they to get this, and you took my 10.
Right.
You know, are you kidding me right now? And so that's a thing that can, because I've had many gamblers come in and tell me like, dude, this guy, he split the cards and he shouldn't have split cards. And then he got my card and I would have been fine.
I would have been fine if it weren't for that.
After that. And he's like, I blew 40,000 after that because he screwed me.
Wow. And it's just like, I'm, connecting the dots and seeing the similarities of all. It's just there's this inability to accept the reality of what's going on because you're surrounded by a thing that's pumping fantasy into you all the time. This idea that, wow. And I could see, you're just giving me a real window into process addiction because, like I think of social media, I can be pretty compulsive with that, or I don't get really addicted, although I did play for a few hours yesterday on my PlayStation 4. I wouldn't consider myself addicted to video games,
You can quit anytime you want to, Joel.
I actually do. I do, damn it. But like, you just give me a window into this process of like just the connection to all of it is that you kind of don't want to accept what's really happening. And this thing is a perfect way to escape that, or to sell you the idea that you can fix it in a minute, or you'll be okay if this thing, or if somebody else didn't do that, I'd be okay. It's like, we all have that inability to want to accept reality sometimes.
I'm currently listening to Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, and she talks about numbing a lot. And that's it's the same. It's a very similar concept. I mean, the numbing through process addiction, how like something can be like kind of a benign numbing thing, but it can also turn into something else.
Well, but just take that for a second, because what I like Joel's word could be, what we're missing is connection.
Yep.
Just acceptance of reality, but it's the connection to people around me. And, if I've got a wife mad at me, kids are mad, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, like, where can I get a sense that reality will become okay again? I can go there, and they're going to treat me nice. They're going to smile. They're going to give me what I want, and I'm going to get connected that way, because they don't ever turn me down. And that's the part that gets really challenging, is that I'm asking you to not only give up the activity, but the environment of the activity.
Like
where everybody knows your name.
Right. People,
Absolutely.
places, and playthings, right? That's what we say, and is part of the therapeutic, obviously, with, there's Gamblers Anonymous, or I'm sure there's a video game support group system too, but is part of the therapeutic that you work with outside of those recovery sort of peer-led, peer support groups, like, is there, do you see underneath all of that addiction symptom that sort of part of the therapeutic is like, hey, go make some friends, go do something? Like, is it about, like, really the real thing is the connectivity and having connections with other humans?
I think that's the thing that recovery groups did, starting way back when till now, that they did was that ability to connect and connect on a gut level, that, like, you understand me, you're not judging me, and we can start off fresh, and there's a way out of this. I think that level of connection is the part, not trying to denigrate the other two sort of legs of the tripod that they talk about in recovery meetings, but that to me is the most significant thing that they came across, was that idea that we will hold meetings, we will get people together, and we will go through this, because that fantasy land keeps me out of connection, which, quite honestly, is what I want. It's hard.
That's the irony of it. It's a false thing. It's very well, I relate that to social media and likes.
Absolutely.
We're so connected, but are you?
Right.
Meanwhile, your spouse or whoever's laying in bed next to you thinking, I guess I'll go to sleep.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
Do you work with folks that obviously that gambling, video games, but also social media? Is that a thing that gets to?
That's becoming more and more of a thing, and especially Steve mentioned it, but especially in couples therapy. There's a lot of that right now, because I asked a therapist that I knew that did only couples therapy, and where do affairs start? And she said, I've never had one in the last 15 years not start online.
Wow.
Because she said it's a fantasy land.
Right.
And there's no responsibility there.
Right.
In that situation, whereas there's responsibility at home.
Right.
There's this will be easy and fun and whatever.
And there's no accountability too, because our brains sort of see it as a video game or something that, like,
you guys, we all know our friend Jamie.
Yes.
Hi,
Jamie.
On his BlackBerry.
Yes.
Way back in the day, saying, "Make me feel better. Make me feel better."
I have quoted that so many times to people, because I remember that so vividly.
Is there a better analogy for that situation than that story? I mean, make me feel better.
Full disclosure, I have caught myself scroll through Instagram for X amount of minutes, close the app, open Facebook, scroll through X amount of minutes, close that app, go back to Instagram. And I'm like, it's like I'm feeding myself my own FOMO bag of like,
yeah,
oh, well, yeah,
oh my God, the FOMO.
Let me ask you guys a question. What's the first thing you do when you get up?
I don't, because here's why I'm pissed about it. You asked that, and we even went
to Joel's fantasy, Jeremy.
Right? Because like 8 podcasts ago, I was like, man, I'm going to stop looking at my phone in the morning, and I did. Between podcasts, I put my phone in the other room. But man, that blue light, Jeremy, that blue light.
Oh, it calls.
Wakes me up.
Oh, it calls you.
Oh, it's like so good. It's like, hey, good morning. Here's a false sun. I'm not the sun, but I also have pictures of, political figures you hate and music that you like.
Here's a distant friend of yours doing something you've always wanted to do.
And they're surfing. They're in Florida licking each other's faces during this pandemic. You should be doing that too. And then, I'm angry, and then I've got to sit in meditation with all this, fuel on the fire with nothing to burn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was actually listening to Mark Maron talk about the first thing he has to do now is meditate.
Yeah.
That his mind isn't awake enough. I love this description.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard him talking. Who's he talking to about that? Was that who was that? That was it was
Michael K. Williams.
It was Michael K. Williams.
Oh, yeah, Omar.
Okay.
Omar coming, yeah.
And
that was great.
That. Yeah.
Maron's my guy for
real.
food stuff.
Yeah.
Maron's the one that talks about like he's the food guy. Mm-hmm. Like how do you not eat? It's for everyone. It's food. You kind of have to have it. Like, what am I supposed to do? I'm a food guy. Like, I guess I'll just be standing at the party eating all of the carrots. And then somebody will see me and come up and go, "You can eat all those carrots?" Like, yeah, I can't wait. Like, oh, you're like me, aren't you? Yes, I am.
But yeah, dude, you nail me to a wall with that, Jeremy, because like that is the first thing I do. It's the last thing I do, and if it's totally habitual by this point. Maybe I really need to look at that. There's something about
here's the part to tap into, Joel, is because the part I had to look at was, do I feel off center when I don't? And like
when you don't look at social media,
when I don't get up and look at my phone first thing. And I noticed that like I would, for the first couple of weeks, I was like, ugh, I don't feel like I need something to ease me into this day.
It's like detoxing from sugar.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
I haven't tried that.
You think detoxing from Instagram is hard? Try detoxing from sugar.
Yeah, no, thanks. I'll just die early. It's fine.
I get it.
But I think that's the thing I noticed was like I would just feel off for the first weeks. And I was like, oh, that's a problem. Yeah. Like that is the first thing I go to. And so I just rearranged my morning routine and cut it out at night. I don't look at it past 10 p.m. Because nothing is more soothing to me than getting in a rage cycle.
Right.
10:30.
I've been doing that, but I don't do that at night. I mean, I do look at it at night, but I don't get on. But in the morning, I have caught myself, especially during lockdown, buying weird shit while sitting in my meditation room, scrolling through Instagram, and there's a Star Wars shirt that's going to fix me. Or, or like getting into like, I'll type up this whole inflammatory post about the president and like just delete it all.
Delete it.
Okay.
I've spent 45 minutes writing posts than deleting it. Yeah. That's my contribution to society, is just not making the post.
Thank you for deleting all those posts, Steve. We appreciate it.
I do, and Joel, that like this, because I went on, I do not, well, because of this podcast, actually.
Oh yeah. Blame the podcast, Steve. Nice.
No, I put Instagram back on my phone.
Right.
And it's been a fucking nightmare. I hate it. I hate it so much because I was so much happier when I'm not. Yeah. I mean, I did no Facebook related anything, no Insta, no Facebook for months, and it was delightful. And then, but it's like just put the app back on the phone because you want to see if people are liking the podcast. And by the way, please follow us on Instagram.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram, please.
We've been doing this. This is our 20th one, and we frankly just don't have enough followers to feed my need for that level of gratification.
Everybody go everybody out here follows Steve. Go like 20 of his last posts just to give him a boost.
So much better.
But then take it away.
Then take it away.
Somebody did unfollow us, Joel. Like,
yeah, I'm sure.
I
don't
like
count. I don't. You count.
Our follower count went down a day, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck you, random mystery internet person.
I don't really watch that.
I need your like.
There is actually, though, there's some pretty hard science out there now that the more, and this was interesting to me, the amount of time you spend on one app is less addictive and less detrimental to mental health than having multiple social media apps.
Really? So if I whittled it down to Instagram,
yeah,
okay.
Then you can control and enjoy your internet media consumption. I'm just on one app. What? Leave me alone. I'm scrolling.
This is fine. I'm married to who now?
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Well, dude, it's like, and you get whole. I mean, and this is, I guess, this is a process of me identifying with an addiction that I initially didn't think I identified with, or even judged. It was like, that is the process. It's not the thing, right? Like the booze is just alcohol is just a beverage. It's what it does for me. I'll let it do what it does to me because of what it does for me.
Yep.
And I could gambling, video games, internet, I could see the process of that being so woven into a daily routine. You know what I mean? Like, that's wild. I just I've never really put it in that context, you know?
Jeremy, are you with us?
I think either he fell asleep or he froze.
I think he froze.
Oh, I froze. I'm here.
Okay, good. Sweet.
Yeah. Like he's like fell asleep. Like I know.
I don't think Jeremy's a narcolept.
That's a whole new podcast.
Right. That would be a great podcast. Jeremy's
narcoleptics out there.
Unknown secret of narcolepsy would have been amazing.
Sorry.
Video games, they're now selling connection, and the World Health Organization during the pandemic started saying, just let your kids play video games. It's a way they can connect with their friends. Now, it 100% is a way they can connect with their friends. That's not my argument, because again, stimulus is the stimulus. I don't care what it is. But now we're noticing a pretty big uptick in people that are wanting to come in for therapy because my kid's addicted to this. And if we take away from them, they get really angry. Well, of course, not only did you take away the game, you took away all their friends.
Right.
Because they can't hang out with their friends anymore either. And that's where everybody is.
And that's hard when you're a kid.
Yeah, exactly. And so I got really irritated when the World Health Organization did that. They didn't return my call, so it was fine.
Did you? Please tell me you called them.
I did.
Good for you, man.
Don't worry, I'm on that watch list too.
But that's the thing, like you take it away, but in the heart of the pandemic, it's also like, you can't say, well, 16-year-old kid, you can go to that party. It's like, well, I don't want you to go to that party either, because you might get sick, but you also probably can't play video games because I'm taking away the Xbox.
And so why don't you just read a book?
Oh, that's so connective. Thank you.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to read Thoreau.
That's going to teach me empathy and things like that. That sounds boring.
Yeah.
Jeremy, do you read a little bit?
Yeah. What do you read? What are you reading right now, dude?
Yeah, for real.
Okay. This isn't nerdy at all.
Please.
So I'm currently reading, I have to read 4 books at once or I get bored.
Right.
So I'm reading a book on, it's a 4-volume series on Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Oh, good Lord. I bet that's interesting.
It is interesting. I'm reading a book on sociopaths, and
that tracks.
Yeah. And I'm reading another book on video game addiction and what it's been like. Well, it's more of a series of articles, I guess. What it did during the pandemic, and then for fun, I'm reading Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin.
Ah, nice. Very good.
Is it any good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's really good.
Have you read, speaking of fantasy novel, have you read the King Killers series? Oh, I finished the first one and I need to read the second one, and I've just
it's real good.
Yeah, I can't wait. How do you feel about the casino happening here and the gambling laws that are being sort of injected into the great state of Nebraska?
I think I guess this would be my stock answer is you increase access, you will increase problem.
Yeah.
Right. As an example, so in Nebraska, we're currently rocking at about 1 to 3% gambling addiction. I was at a training in Vegas a few years ago, and their rate was 8 to 9%.
Wow.
So I think it's going to bump it up for a little bit. I think we're going to have people that have a problem. I don't know if that will stay or if the people will wear off.
Like when a new restaurant opens up in Lincoln, can't get into it for a week.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think after it opens, the next 5 years are going to be interesting for purpose, but I don't know what'll happen after that because Vegas has stayed steady, but at the same time, Vegas was also the only place for a while that you could do all the gambling.
Right.
I don't know if that number will actually go down as more states allow sports betting and things like that. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, because I've always maintained that I think our number on the number of people that have a gambling addiction is low. I think if you look at just lifestyle choices, so we'll use just some hard facts. Typically, 10% of the population is going to have a problem with alcohol and drugs. That's a pretty generally accepted number, okay? Yet 50% of them show up as having a gambling problem. Okay. So yet we have a 1 to 3% rate of people that have a gambling problem. So that math doesn't add up to me. So I'm curious if that's more that we're already in recovery programs, so we're folding this addiction in. And so we're just working on both of them at the same time. I shouldn't speculate. I don't have the answer for it.
Right.
I think there's a lot of undiagnosed problem that we don't see because they're able to pull themselves out occasionally.
Right.
So you're not going to see it till later. Whereas, as crappy as this sounds, thankfully alcoholism was just one long road down.
Right.
Yeah. That's what I meant earlier by predictable.
Yeah, exactly.
Once that switch is flipped without some sort of recovery, it's a very predictable trajectory.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I think
jails, institutions, and death. Oh my.
Right.
Yeah.
I do like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think the numbers are a little lower than we actually have a problem for, but I haven't figured out how to test for it yet.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure it'll be, you can't really predict or know what's going to happen with something like that until it actually does. I mean, there's proponents of like, well, tax money is good and it's a good way to, people are driving to Council Bluffs to spend their money, and that Iowa's getting all those tax dollars, but there's a trade-off there of potential harm, that it can cause
societal ills and increased tax burden.
Right.
So let me flip this for a second. Let me ask you two a question. What do you think of marijuana legalization?
Oh, all for it.
I am all for it because it's a justice issue there for me, because there's folks that have been incarcerated disproportionately because of the color of their skin based on marijuana possession or distribution. And the other justice issue is how are you going to have one state have cannabis illegal while it's medicinal across the river?
Well,
right?
It's very it's simple, Joel. You sue the neighboring state. That's how you have that. You sue the neighboring state. Man.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
And I agree with those justice issues completely. Okay. But
for me, it's the fact that alcohol and cigarettes are legal.
Again, no argument there.
Right.
But my question would be, who gets to determine which one's safe? Because I'm not talking about like, I get a lot of people that tell me, well, marijuana is not addictive.
I disagree.
Right. Like, so I really have no opinion on it, other than I'd like us to legalize it so that I have to stop talking to clients about it. Like that would be nice, because they just want to argue with me about, well, that's alcohol is legal, but if you have a problem with it, you have a problem with it. And so I think, again, I go back to my same argument, which is, and that doesn't mean it's a no for me.
Right.
If you increase access, you will increase problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, it's like, you can get pot anytime you want anyway.
Yeah.
So it's really easy. When I was 15, it was a lot easier to get pot than it was booze.
Yeah. Right.
Straight up. And
not where I'm from, but yeah.
I would argue, and like I had a older gentleman say, well, marijuana is a gateway drug. And I'm like, well, that's probably because in order to get it, you have to be around drug dealers.
Yeah. Right.
And there's actually not much to back up that marijuana is a gateway drug.
No, right.
And like my deal
There's
with
not a lot of
marijuana being
science.
addictive is that it's almost back to the process addiction thing, which is that it numbs me and I can just be in my safe space very easily. Man, have a nice day. Right?
Yeah. Because that's what it is for me, is they're all process addictions.
Sure. Like no, marijuana is no more
physical.
addictive than video games. Marijuana is no more addictive than chocolate or pizza or sex or whatever, shopping. Right. I had my counselor tell me in high school, he's like, the only problem that he saw with marijuana is that it was amotivational. Like if you're stoned all the time, if you're that kind of person who has a difficulty getting off the couch when you're stoned, you're probably not going to achieve as much as you could if you weren't stoned. Then I know a lot of creative people that would say, well, that's bullshit.
But there's also like the idea of there's the good nugs that we used to smoke, and then there's like high concentrated, gummies that have THC that'll blow your mind. That there was that idea that THC in cannabis was not actually quote unquote addictive, but you pack enough THC into something, it's a hallucinogenic psycho.
Yeah, but that doesn't,
I'm not saying the right word, but you know what I mean.
But that doesn't make it addictive. Because most people after like an intense psychedelic experience don't want to do it again for a while.
Right.
Like they need to take a couple of days off.
But take that into even food as an example, with as much processed stuff we have in food. Steve was talking about sugar. You give up sugar, you're going to feel it.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I mean by process, is like, it's whatever we put into our body, we will get used to. When we remove it, we will miss that.
Oh yeah.
So I have no dog in the fight as to whether or not these things are legal. It's my objective is always treat the people who can't do it.
Sure.
Video games.
For whatever reason.
Yeah. Right.
I just always find it interesting, the difference in those, I guess, stigmas.
Yeah.
Something has a more significant stigma than drug addiction.
Yeah. Right.
And so that's the part that I guess it was an unfair thing on my end, but I wanted to challenge it for a second to see like what everybody's view is on it, because there is, interestingly, gambling is about money. That's what people see it as. And so therefore they are trusted less than somebody that has like a substance use issue. And so it's harder for my gamblers to get a job if they've been convicted of something related to their gambling than like a DUI.
Yeah. Wow.
Because you're looking at embezzlement.
Right.
Somebody you worked for, something along those lines.
Wow.
So that's one of the things that like I like challenging those, even though to me they're very, very similar, they're viewed differently among the general public. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And I think that's a really great challenge too, because it makes, and that goes to, you mentioned stigma. I mean, the stigmatization of addiction across the board. It's because like when you say, legalize cannabis, we immediately think of like head shops selling, sacks of weed, but there's also like there's a whole medicinal property, and even with psychedelics too, like because the war on drugs and Just Say No was this colossal fucking nightmare. The possibility that these organic materials could be used as medicine were never allowed to be researched, and that's why I think the legalization question is a health question as well as a justice question, as well as, if you're gonna stigmatize one thing, why aren't you stigmatizing the other thing? And that's my issue with it. And plus, I don't think the state loves that you could grow a really great medicine in your basement. I think they really worry about that because they can't regulate it and sell it, but like
they
could, right.
If our governor wasn't on the take from the pharmaceutical industry.
Oh yeah. Woo.
Hey, so have either of you guys ever read, you guys know who Michael Pollan is?
I do not.
Researcher. Well, you may know him from Food Inc. and The Omnivore's Dilemma.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, he wrote a book a year or two ago called How to Change Your Mind. And he did extensive research on psychedelic research and psychedelics dating back to the beginning of time, basically. But he really focused on how psychedelic research was shut down.
Right.
There's volumes and volumes and volumes and volumes of psychedelic research that just got shuttered and shelved, and how that now those doors are starting to creak open a little bit, and how the results are, well, in a completely non-surprising way to any fan of the Grateful Dead, really beneficial.
Yeah. Well, in a lot of ways, like, and not just like, booming people's minds apart. It's also like, helping people in chronic illness situations grapple with their own inevitable death. And
and people with like it helps across the board. Read the book. It's really, really fantastic. Okay. It's fantastic. And he also just chronicles his own psychedelic research. He's like, if I'm going to research it, I should probably try it. And he does, and he talks about it from a purely research oriented standpoint.
Yeah.
Like he's not like getting high, man.
Well, he is, but he isn't, right? Like he's investigating it. He's curious.
How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. It's fantastic.
Interesting.
It's revolutionary. It's and what was most eye-opening to me about it is the people that I've traditionally associated with that, if they're mentioned at all, it's in passing, which just goes to show that there's so much information that was basically censored.
Yeah. Right.
Effectively just censored. And but how much research was done, quote, back in the day, and now the modern research, it's really fascinating.
Yeah. Interesting.
Anyway, that's a little sidebar, but
well, we're getting close to the end. We started asking these questions, but one thing that we always like to ask guests, Jeremy, is what are you listening to? Or like what bands or music are you listening to, or what are your like top 5 all time?
Oh yeah, there we go. No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure. The Dead are on there.
Yeah, they are.
This one's gonna make Steve mad, but I like Dave Matthews.
I get no truck against that.
What do you got against Dave?
Nothing.
Okay.
My sister told me 20 plus years ago that there was this guy playing in North Carolina that was going to be huge. Well, who is he? He's like Dave Matthews. Some guy sounds lame. Well, shows what I know.
Based purely on his name.
Right.
Yeah. Whatever. Let's see. Actually, I like Louis Capaldi. That dude. I don't even
know who that is.
I don't know. I don't know who that is.
He refers to himself as the Scottish Beyonce.
Okay.
Oh, I'm in.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
Okay.
But and probably I don't know. I can come up with another one. I like Ray LaMontagne.
Sure.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Ray LaMontagne is so good.
Dude, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, this has been really great, and it's good to see you. Joel and I started doing this ostensibly so we could hang out for an hour.
Yeah.
And
I like sometimes the last couple guests have been sort of people that we don't really, and I'm like, man, I'm just looking forward to just like I know there's just going to be a chat with Jeremy.
It's nice.
Like it's so nice. And
totally.
I'm like I'm proud of you, man. Like you're doing amazing things in our community, and also like being elected to that association, you're a leader in the state and you're an advocate for mental health and
all good things.
All good things, dude. You're doing great. And like, thank you.
Thank you guys.
One more thing, like if you or anybody has a process addiction and would like to get some help, Jeremy is tell us how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, I work for Alternative Avenues. Our office number is I'll give you my work cell is 440-5094, and you can get a hold of me or my colleague Janet Johnson there. We also have a 24-hour helpline, and that number is 531-510-0298.
531-510-0298.
Sorry.
What's that?
0298.
0298. And that's Alternative Avenues.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow, that's really generous and awesome of you to just put it out there like that, because who knows? I mean, somebody may need 20 minutes of your time, Jeremy, and you can, maybe save their lives. So it's awesome. Glad you're doing it.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Thanks for doing this, Jeremy. You rock.
Oh, you go on.
All right. Nice.